Hey everybody, I am nutritionist Dr. Mike Roussell, and welcome to the next episode of Friday Fuel Up with Dr. Mike. So I am a six-time author and advisor to Men's Health Magazine. Now, I've been a nutrition PhD by education, but for the last 10 years, I've been working with world-class individuals, from professional athletes to top-tier business executives to even some Hollywood stars along the way, and helping them all figure out how to leverage the power of nutrition to be the best in their field, the boardroom, or on the set. I've been able to personally learn so much about success, dedication, commitment, and what drives these high-performing individuals. So I started Friday Fuel Up to share with you these incredible insights straight from the best in the world. Now, we have an incredible duo today that is legendary in the endurance space. We're going to talk a lot about what fuels them nutritionally, but also what fuels them mentally. All right, so coming on today, we are so excited. As I mentioned, these are two legendary endurance athletes. We have Alistair and Jonny Brownlee. Now, the show, we try to keep it to 30 minutes, and so I think if I were to read off everything that they've ever won and accomplished in the sports, in endurance sports, it would take that whole 30 minutes. So I'm just going to give you guys the brief highlights. So Jonny won a bronze medal in 2012 in the triathlon in London. We're going to talk about that and how awesome that was to win the Olympic medals in your own hometown. He won a silver in 2006 in Rio, and then most recently in the mixed team triathlon, he won a gold in Tokyo. And his brother Alistair also won a gold in 2012 in London, another gold in 2016 in Rio, and then has also won silvers in the Ironman in 2018 and 2019. So I want to welcome very much Jonny and Alistair Brownlee. Welcome to Friday Fuel Up with Dr. Mike.
Hello,
hey,
thanks for having us.
So good to have you guys on the show. This is so... I had talked to a friend of mine the other day who grew up in England, and he couldn't believe that I had the two of you guys on the show. He's like, these guys are legendary, and so he was really jealous. So thanks for taking the time to come on and chat.
Yeah, well, thank you, and that's high praise.
So we have, as always, when we get started in the show, I'm going to throw in the comments there your guys' social links, as well as our sponsor, the American Pistachios. But as always in the show, one of the things we do is we always like to get questions from people watching and people listening in. So we have some really cool giveaways today. We're giving away a TT bag, a running bag, and then the Weekender bag from Hoob. So as we're talking with the two Brownlees, if you guys have questions, just type them into the chat. Best questions are going to win these bags. So guys, to get started, one of the things that I wanted to talk about, because I want to get into, as I mentioned in the show intro, I want to talk about your nutrition and fueling, because that's a personal interest to me. And I also want to get into the mental. I have here, you guys are also quite the book writers. I have here Alistair's most recent book that just came out. And then you guys also wrote a book together called Swim, Bike, Run as well. And that was kind of a chronicling leading up to the Olympics, your first Olympic medals. Let me throw those in the chat too, so people can pick those up on Amazon. Let me just get that in there for everybody. So you can get links to those books. So, we're coming off the Olympics, and I know so much emphasis, is probably placed on the Olympics, training, the trials, everything leading up to that. I know, Alistair, you've also had ankle surgery that was kind of a nagging ankle injury that got better and then magically got worse again. And so you had surgery, so you're kind of recovering through that. So I wanted to just talk about now coming off, such a high intensive cycle leading up to the Olympics. What does your training look like now? And what are the things that are on the horizon for each of you in the sport of the triathlon?
Yeah, so I'll start first. Obviously, Tokyo now was 2 months ago, even longer than that. And one thing I felt like I'd not done very well in my past Olympics was really take it in and appreciate it. And think as you get older, you start to kind of realise that, and you realise you need to take these things in. So came back from Tokyo. I actually flew home the next day. Obviously, it was a weird Olympics, that goes without saying, and you had to leave within 48 hours. So there's none of the other stuff around the Olympics, so going to watch other events or meeting other athletes. It was straight home, and I went on holiday for a week to kind of take it all in. And then I raced a series of triathlon, a Super League triathlon. So that was the whole of September, basically. Different locations around the world. I came third in that series, and then got straight back into preparing for a half Ironman race that I raced in Portugal last weekend. Well, 2 weekends again, sorry, 2 weekends ago. And so yeah, I've been non-stop after Olympics, and I'm currently now having a bit of an off season, so had a week off training. Again, I've changed that as I got older. I found that if I stop for too long, I don't get going again. So a week off training, and then I've got a month now of easy, relaxed training to kind of get back into it. For me, training is not a chore, so it's not like I really need that mental break. But and it goes out saying again, it's been an unusual Olympic cycle with the uncertainty of it being delayed and then back on again, and so it hasn't felt like the normal Olympics. But yeah, I'm kind of back on new goals, and I'm at this period now where I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do, whether I'm going to focus on the long distance racing or go for Paris, because it's only 3 years away.
Yeah. Yeah. So are you still so you're still a maybe on doing one more Olympics?
Before Tokyo, I genuinely was 99% sure that was going to be my last Olympics. And I think I needed that for a couple of reasons. I needed that so I could commit everything to that Olympic cycle. That Olympics involved a lot of training to get ready for the heat. So that involved a lot of training indoors for me in a heat chamber, sweating away. And I don't enjoy that training. So I had to really, really commit everything to be ready for that. So I really wanted it to kind of, knowing if it was my last one, it was my last chance to get that gold medal. So, but then, and then I kind of thought I'd be ready for a change. But after crossing the finish line, and I had a great performance in the mixed team relay, winning gold medal, and got the fastest split of the day and felt amazing. And then I got the results sheet and looked at that and thought, yeah, 3 years away to Paris, maybe I can do it again. And I'd say I'm 75% now likely to give it another go, and 25% not.
Yeah. Okay. So, Alistair, I want to talk into what you've been doing, but you mentioned, Jonny, something about the heat training, because I know this comes into it a lot with triathlons, is thinking about the weather that you're going to be competing in, and what it's going to be like on game day and or race day, and what it's like historically in those areas. With you guys being from England, traditionally not the most hot, arid place, do you have to go, and do you find yourself traveling to train in places that mimic where you're going to be racing, or do you do it like you said, Jonny, where it's a heat chamber and you're kind of doing this artificial simulation of the environment?
I think it's a combination of both, really. It depends on the environment, and like Jonny said, it's kind of become very obviously important in the last few years to prepare specifically for hot and humid conditions with the Olympics that were in Tokyo, and for me, specific long distance events where you're trying to prepare for them. And heat is a major factor. But for example, if the race was for me, the big Ironman every year obviously is in Hawaii. Yeah, maybe you could prepare for the heat at home. Although being in the heat for 8 hours is that's really difficult to prepare for in a heat chamber. But then you've got other things. You've got obviously jet lag and getting used to the general conditions, and sleeping well in the week before. So for me, that would change the kind of thinking of how long you should go before to prepare and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think it's about kind of keeping your options open, and every time, depending on how big the goal is, trying to assess how important it is for you to go early and how you should best prepare to get the ultimate performance.
Yeah. Okay. So what's it like now, Alistair, for you coming off? I know you had ankle surgery a couple weeks ago, and so now you're training. You're looking forward to your kind of big race in the future is the Ironman. And so what's that look like now with your rehab and your mindset trying to come off an injury and move forward to this next step?
Yeah, this year has been really, really tough for me. Yeah, I was training well back in the early part of the year, and out of nowhere, kind of had this ankle injury that it's just the worst possible situation for an athlete.
Hmm.
Not knowing what it is, not knowing if it's going to get better, not knowing how long it'll take to get better, not knowing if it will get better actually. And so I ultimately I had surgery on it in June because that was my only option, and I've been rehabbing it since then, and trying to do everything I can to build the strength back up in it and rehab it so I can run properly again. So yeah, that's been a really tough kind of mental thing to cope with over months and months, most of the year, and ultimately it'll mean that I haven't raced and do what I love doing, do what I've done since I was 6 years old for an entire year.
Yeah.
And it's been a big challenge to kind of overcome and cope with that mentally.
So I really, and I got this from listening to some other interviews with you guys leading up to this, that and Johnny said it and you just said it too, like you guys love this, like you love what you do. And so through this kind of ongoing commitment, whether it's because you take no time off, like I appreciate Johnny said you took some time off to enjoy it, which was like a week, right? So like in the kind of the span of off season, like you guys don't take it off because you love what you do. So fueling what you're doing, and then especially too, even now, so coming off an injury, like how do you get your body the right nutrition coming off an injury so you can rehab that quicker? What is it like? What are some of the guiding principles nutritionally that you guys prescribe to? And I know that you work with a great nutritionist, Nigel. And what are the things that he's constantly harping on that you guys really make sure that you do day in and day out?
Well, I think the main thing, obviously, we're doing a lot of activity day in, day out. So you've got to replace that with calories. And, one of the things that Nigel talks about is that you've got to replace that with good calories.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, if you're burning 4 or 5 thousand calories a day, it's quite easy to replace that with really quick carbohydrates, whether that's bread or chocolate or whatever. And really, you need to do it with solid fuel. So that's actually where pistachios come in. They're a really good, easy fuel source that are just there, convenient, super quick to grab a handful of pistachios and eat. And you've got a really nice source of calories there, good protein and fats involved. So I think that's on a daily basis something that Nigel talks about.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the classic of when to eat. Eat soon after training. Nigel talks a lot about hydration and salt balance as well. And obviously, having some salt with the pistachios is a good way to do it. But especially in the hot weather, thinking about that. And yeah, eating quality food again. It's easy to eat quick kind of carbohydrate sources and maybe not think about eating good quality fruit and veg. And really, if there's anything kind of Nige hammers into us constantly is eat a well-rounded diet of real food.
So do you guys have trouble, like, you had said that you burn a lot of calories because there's a lot of activity going on. Do you have trouble recovering and refueling and actually consuming enough calories to maintain that caloric output, or that's something that you've just kind of been so consistent with? Because I think about how much you guys train, that recovery is so important, and so if you're in this chronic calorie deficit, it makes it really difficult to have the incredible longevity like you guys have had.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely, we do. When we're training hard, especially at altitude, and you're burning 5, 6, 7,000 calories a day, it is hard to get the fueling right, and it's very easy to reach for the that cookie jar and get those easy calories in. Whereas, like I
Mm-hmm.
said, Nigel has been very good at saying, with some planning and organisation and the right fueling sources, you can replace those calories. And for someone who suffers with bone injuries, I've had a couple of stress fractures in my body before and a couple of reactions. I need to get that fueling right, especially at altitude, and that's
Mm-hmm.
when we were on a training camp in Santa Fe with Nigel, and he was unbelievable at providing us with the nutrition we need. And you get back from a training session, a 4-hour training session, and there'd be great food for you there ready. And I really struggle with that in a day-to-day at home, just because to get good food, enough of it is hard. And if I don't fuel well, then I don't recover well, and I don't train as well, and I get injured very quickly. So I have to be very, very careful with that. And I've made a few changes to my nutrition over the last few years, last year or so. I suffer massively from sugar ups and downs, and if I take too high sugary foods, then I feel awful 20 minutes later. I feel worse than I did if I was hungry. So I have to avoid them. And again, bread, I can't eat a lot of bread anymore because that really upsets my stomach. And so other snacks for me, rather than bread or chocolate, makes me feel far better during the day.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I guess that would be hard. Like if you're trying to recover, if I had a 5,000 calorie deficit every day, bread would definitely be top on the list. So, so not to, to make up some of that. So that would be, yeah, I could see how that would be really difficult. Two questions. One from one of our viewers. I'm going to mispronounce their name and I apologize. Wibke wants to know, how do you fuel in the first minutes after reaching the finish line? So right when you cross the finish line, how do you start that refueling process?
Yeah, well, I must admit, in theory, obviously, you've got a great window to recover and adapt to the inflammation and everything you've had from a race to be stronger and fitter and faster. That's in theory. In practice, it's really hard to do. Normally because you're absolutely knackered. Quite often you feel really sick, and having some kind of recovery drink, that you'd actually need, protein, essential amino acids, etc., is the last thing you want to try and get down you when you're feeling hot and sick and tired. So I mean, in real life, it's water, sugary drink, whatever's available, and then try to get some food down you when you feel like it a bit later. I have at points, and so will have Jonny, in particular races where you're racing the week after, or you're racing soon after, or it's part of a racing block, made a real effort to recover well. But yeah, like I said, it's a balance of the theory and doing what you can in practice.
Yeah, so that's really that's such a great insight, that in theoretically it's very easy to know what are the things you do, but part of it is knowing your body. And you said that if you're coming back on a circuit, and Jonny, you said you had just finished one, that sometimes it takes days to replenish that glycogen, the sugar stores in your muscles. So while there is a lot of focus on once you cross the finish line, that sustained focus on continuing to recover in the 48, 72 hours afterwards doesn't get as much press, but is really important, especially if you're coming back with another race, in relatively short order.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. And for us, that's hard because quite often when you have race, you fly into your next race venue or your next training camp or flying home. And that's when the fueling's, like I say, even more important, because those days you can get ill, you can affect your training for the next few days, not recover as well, so you won't race well the next week. So nutrition is absolutely crucial, and you can win and lose races from your nutrition, and it really has taken me years and years to get it right, and I'm learning every day.
So do you guys do a lot of, what's your fueling look like during the race? Alistair, you said you're doing an Ironman, it's 8 hours. That's a solid work day. What is that? But you're also on the go, and talking about whole foods, and Jonny, you were saying a lot of the simple sugar stuff like that doesn't agree with you. What have you learned over the years, either of you, about your bodies and what you can consume during the races?
Yeah, so I think triathlon exists over quite a bit of distances. There's the kind of short stuff that Jonny was talking about, an hour, half an hour to an hour. There's Olympic distance, which is classically like an hour 45, where nutrition's kind of important, and you need a bit of carbohydrates, but really water and electrolytes is probably the most important thing to get that right, to make sure you don't get dehydrated, and a little bit of carbs just to keep you going. There's half Ironman distance, which is 3.5 to 4 hours where, yep, your carbohydrate balance becomes even more important. And then there's Ironman, which is 8 hours. And if you're not getting carbs in, you're going to come to a screaming halt about halfway in. So nutrition becomes really important. Both your carbohydrate intake and your fluid and electrolyte balance are all equally important depending on how hot the race is. And it's one thing, I mean, so standard kind of process of, like rule of thumb, 2 litres of fluid an hour if it's hot, about 1 gram of sodium, and about 80 to 100 grams kind of carbs per hour of racing. How can you get that in a way that, you can absorb, isn't going to give you GI distress, and take it. So, making sure when you're physically and mentally under stress in racing conditions, making sure you get it in. So that's the kind of rule of thumb. But one of the things I've worked on really hard with Nigel over the last few months is actually really looking at kind of metabolism testing and testing how much carbohydrate I can metabolize at different kind of race intensities, and playing around with different balances of carbohydrates in glucose, fructose, and multidextrins to see if I can absorb more of different formulas than others. Okay. So it's been a fascinating project, and in theory, if you can increase the amount of carbohydrates you can absorb in an hour, you can just push those little more watts on the bike. Gives you a little bit more exogenous fueling, and hopefully saves you endogenous fuel as well. So that's why it really is crucial in iron distance racing.
So if you're going, you said 80, let's say on the low end, 80 grams of carbohydrates an hour for an 8-hour race. I mean, you basically just eating nonstop, or drinking nonstop.
Well, 80 grams of carbs, if you about 4 energy gels, it's 80 grams of fluid if you mix it up into a bit more fluid, say 100 mils. So it's actually not that hard to get in, and when it's that concentrated, in theory, like it's easy to, like that's literally 2 or 3 gulps actually. So I might just say, right, I'm just having like a gulp every 15 minutes, and that gets me about the right amount in. But in theory, but like
the key is to get it as concentrated enough as you can handle it, so you're not constantly consuming.
I personally think so. Other people do it in other ways, but like you're saying, that the issue with it being concentrated, as anyone knows who's taken on energy gels, we're talking 80 grams of carbs is 4 energy gels an hour. If the bike's going to take you 4 hours in an Ironman or more, you don't do the maths, that's 16 gels. So yeah, very concentrated and a lot of it. So really that becomes the challenge of can I absorb that without it causing me significant GI distress?
Yeah. So we have a question here from John, and I think it kind of gets at this. I just want to read it to make sure we touch on it all. John wanted to know, how do you fuel in a long distance tri race so that you get the carbs needed, and also having some variety to stop getting from feeling sick? So I feel like we kind of, hopefully that should answer John's question. Johnny, I know before we had talked a little bit, you don't mess around with the Ironmans? You're more into the more reasonable distances?
Ironman felt a long way, and I watched Alistair do Kona one year, and I did my whole day of training. He was still going, went to sleep. He was still kind of going, and thought, Ironman's a long, long way. But so I did a half Ironman distance 2 weeks ago in Portugal, and that felt a long way. An Ironman is a long, long way.
Do you have are you guys similar, like with how you go about fueling? Like if you could get it in a couple gulps every 15 minutes, or I know you mentioned that over time you've really honed in on what you're sensitive to and what you're not sensitive to.
Yeah, without going into a too long answer, I've done similar testing to Alistair, and I do the same. I have a bottle, so for my half Ironman racing, I had a 500 milliliter bottle with about 200 grams of carbs in it, just mixed with water. So it's basically half sugar and then half the other rest topped up with water, and I just gulp it every 15 minutes and make sure I finish it by the end of the bike. And it's a very concentrated, kind of feels like a bit like golden syrup kind of solution, but
Yep.
it provided it all there for me, and I liked it because it's just exactly what I need to do by the end of the bike. Just finish that. Simple.
Okay, cool. So we're crushing time here. We have like not even getting close to all the questions because you guys are awesome. I wanted to go get in. We have another question from David Watson. I just want to make sure we get in some of these questions. And this is actually awesome. He apologizes because it's not a nutrition question, but it'll be nice. So David wants to know about a inexpensive bike for a team age girl to do triathlons. So younger, entry level kind of bike that you would find reliable.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to say what entry level is or what the right kind of prices for bikes.
So
But yeah,
here,
I think it is
let me,
worth saying that you can have a really great bike that I think as long as it's a road racing bike and you want it to have index gears where the brakes are on the handlebars. Yeah, you absolutely don't have to spend the earth, get out on it, enjoy riding it. And it's very true that the engine is the most important part.
I think that's good. That's a really good response. Um, Kind of wrapping up. Well, two things about nutrition. We were talking about Nigel, and so maybe people are wondering, like, who is this, magic ninja named Nigel who shows up in Santa Fe with like spreads of food when you need it and measures your metabolism. And so it's Nigel Mitchell. And actually, I'm going to throw in the chat. I have a link to Nigel's book as well, which is called The Plant-Based Cyclist, which is an incredible book. And so that's who we're talking about.
Yeah, he's just put a new book out as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've got it in my bookcase.
Oh, so yeah, so guys, everybody watching, you search up Nigel Mitchell. Definitely, he's top of the best of the best. One thing as we wrap up kind of nutrition that I wanted to talk about was you guys have a partnership with Aldi's, and one of the things that I always think is so important about nutrition, especially with kids, is food culture. How do we create this culture around food where eating healthy foods it's the thing that you do, because that's the culture. And it seems like that's what you've been working with. Part of your partnership with Aldi's is trying to make kids appreciate that healthy whole foods are great choices, and it's kind of cool to make that healthy choice. Could you guys talk a little bit about that, about your work with Aldi's and the work that you've been doing to spread the good news about healthy eating?
Yeah, Aldi have been a great partner of ours for 5 years now, and also a partner of the British Olympic Association. And they have done a number of campaigns. One of them is called Get Set to Eat Fresh, and various things, all kind of centered around encouraging young people to eat their requirement of 5 fruit and veg portions in a day. And yeah, obviously it's been fantastic to be involved in a company that is actively promoting that. Yeah, that's cool. So we've done quite a lot of work around that, and similar, they support us with our Brownlee Foundation as well, where we put on sporting events for young people, and Aldi have supported us with that. And in the last year that we ran events, we had over 10,000 young people do their first ever triathlon with the Brownlee Foundation, which is cool. And all of those young people that do those go away with information about how to eat healthy and how to eat other healthy foods, and also some fruit. Actually, I think normally it's an apple, and some water from Aldi, and a t-shirt. So yeah, we try to. We kind of both fundamentally believe that actually giving people the opportunity and education of opportunity to do different exercises that might inspire them, and the education to eat well and live well is maybe one of the best things we can help young people with.
Yeah, definitely. No, I totally agree. That's awesome. I am based on the amount of food that my 4 kids eat. I should have a partnership with Aldi's too, but so I'm glad they're doing good work with you guys. That is really awesome. One of the things we got to get, and we're kind of running up on time, and I know we need to get into the Pistachio Challenge because it's something I've heard you guys have been training for. I know I have. But one of the things I wanted to talk to is a little bit about kind of the mindset that goes into your training? Because I am genuinely so impressed, like how long you guys have been doing this. You know, Alistair, you said you kind of endurance sports since you were 4. You guys have been competing since you were 9 or 11 years old, and you still love it. You know, that was like, Jonny, that was the first thing you said, was you took a little bit of time off, but you just love it. And so much of that, I think, it has to do with your mindset and needing to push through some of this stuff, like whether it's an 8-hour race or, you know, it's another Olympic race, whatever it is. One of the things, Jonny, I heard you say in an interview was that as an athlete, you're taught to lie to your body. And I was wondering if you could just expand on that and how you use that to push through some of the hard parts of training and competing.
Yeah, well, I do love a lot of the training I do, but there's those hard sessions where they aren't quite enjoyable. You know, I'll be when you're in a session and it's not going very well, you'd be lying if you say you still really enjoy it, and that's when athletes are really good at lying to their body. The end of the day, what we do is not normal, you know, to push your body that hard. And in a session, when you're halfway through, and you got more reps to go, you feel like you're slowing down. That's when lying to your body becomes key. You know, tell your body it's the last rep. I'll slow down after this, or after this 100-meter stretch, I'll slow down, or when I hit that lamppost on this run, I'll slow down. And you get there and you set yourself another aim before you get there. Next lamppost, then I'll slow down. So that's what I mean by lying to your body. You do lie to your body occasionally to get through those really hard sessions, and then races as well. You know, when you're when you're going to the tough bit of a race and you're running behind someone and you're holding on and you can't go any faster, and you're telling yourself, oh, they're looking tired, and you know for well they're not looking tired, or you tell yourself again, oh, after this lap it's going to get a lot easier, they'll slow down. And so little things like that, you lie to your body to convince yourself that you can maintain that pace and can keep on going. And athletes are very, very good at that, because there are those days when you have to lie to your body just to get through it.
Yep. I'm so happy to hear that as an Olympic gold medalist, you also use the lamppost trick, because as a highly amateur runner, so do I. So that's awesome. Alistair, I had this is another thing about mental toughness I'd love to hear from you. This was a great quote I heard you say once, where you said, one of the toughest things in sport is standing there knowing that there's no reason you shouldn't win the race, the next one and the next one after that, and having to deal with that pressure. So you've been like literally the best in the world time and time again. And so this is, you know, coming, I think, from a true experience. What do you do mentally to deal with that pressure when you're on that starting line and the race is about to start?
Yeah, well, this is kind of a play on the old adage in sport of the most significant pressure is, you know, that you put on yourself rather than external pressure. And I think that's definitely true. And I think for me personally, I actually kind of revel a bit in that pressure. You know, the situations where I know I've trained as hard as I can, and I know there's no reason why I shouldn't go out and perform. I actually take a lot of kind of solace in that, because I tell myself I've done the hard bit, I've done the hard work. Now it's just about getting on and performing and putting that hard work to good use. But yeah, I can also understand, you know, it's a concept that people struggle with, because you've put all this work in, and that carries with it in itself an enormous burden that you should be able to go out and perform. And for me, luckily, that's always been a really kind of motivational aspect. And yeah, I've kind of reveled in the situation.
That's great. That's really great. Yeah, I think putting the trust in what you've done and knowing that that's going to carry you through is huge. That's awesome. So I want to get into now the Pistachio Challenge. So I know that you guys have your bowls of pistachios, and now
there we go.
Oh yeah, no, leave. You can leave them in the bag. Give me the head start. Leave them in the bag. That's fine. No, take them out. So
that was my tactic.
Oh, So here's what I'd like to know. Like, if you were to rate your level of preparation and training for this event right now, would you say it's like 2012 London Olympics level, or like a little bit less?
I would
Yeah,
say Olympic level.
I can't stand on this start line and tell myself there's no reason why I'm not going to win.
Well, I can tell you, and I don't know if this reference will be lost, but I trained for this like Michael Jordan after he got cut from his high school basketball team, because I figure if I can win this, then I'm basically an Olympic champion. So I would also like to let you know, that I'm a very honest competitor. So I have here, it's like a half shelled pistachio, right? And I'm not going to count that one because it's already out.
Oh, that's honest. I'll give you a clap
I
for
just
that.
want to let you know how honest I am starting out here. So I'm going to put 30 seconds on the clock, okay? Shell as many as you can. This is hardcore honor system. I appreciate the competitive nature between two brothers, but please don't lie. And the winner...
no cheating, Alistair.
Exactly. That's what I was going to know. If someone's going to cheat, who is it? Which one of you? Apparently it's going to be Alistair.
Yeah, definitely Alistair. He's got a dark screen. Look, he's got his dark screen as well. Could do anything behind.
Oh, that. Look, he's leveled up. He's showing the playing field. If you win, then you get a year's supply of pistachios. That's basically what's on the line here, okay? So
very important then.
Yes,
that's a lot of them.
That is a lot of them. Yes, and the clock starts. Go. So I'm gonna try to talk and distract you as well. When do you guys do most of your meal prep, or do you have someone like Nigel the ninja? Is someone that's always helping you with that?
My girlfriend does a lot of the cooking, but Nigel does it when we go on our camps. Sorry, I'm in the zone.
Yeah. I was going to say,
time's up. Hands up. Hey, time's up. Whoa. Yeah, Alistair, that last one is, I don't think the problem was with this one. I don't think I was training in the heat. I wasn't training in the right temperature here because I feel like my performance wasn't as good. All right, let's count them up. What do you guys got? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10,
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
12. Okay, I had 11. Alistair, what do you got?
I've got 11 too.
Oh, Johnny coming through. Oh man. Okay, so I'll take the silver medal.
Technically, I got 11 and a half because one's a half one.
Technically. Oh, you know what? Well, I appreciate your honesty, but all you got to do is win by a nose. So 11 and a half wins. That is great. Let me. So.
Here's my. Got them there.
Oh, good. Yes, the verifying. All right, so Johnny, you win the year's supply of pistachios. We will. Excuse me. We'll get you hooked up with that. Is there anything?
Thank you.
Is there anything that we missed that we didn't talk about that's super important to you guys that you want to let the world to know?
Well, I think we've covered it now. The most important thing is I can de-shell nuts faster than Alistair. Pistachio nuts faster than Alistair. So I think that's the most important thing we've covered, and it's another victory for me.
All right. So one last question. After you guys won the medals in the London Olympics, how long did it take before you actually had to buy a beer at a pub?
Well, this is quite a good story actually, because so I crossed the line at the Olympics, and you get whisked off to do every kind of media commitment you can imagine. And I don't know if you guys know, in England, the tradition is that the last service at the pub is 11 o'clock, and they ring a bell at traditional British pubs. And after being dropped back off at the car, after being wished around and thinking, I cannot wait to have my first beer. All my friends are in this one pub in London, proper like London pub, as you can imagine. Yep. I walk through the door as they're ringing the bell, and my friend goes up to the bar and says, "Oh, come on, one beer. You know, he's just won the Olympics and worked so hard." And they said, "No, last orders. Sorry." So I didn't even get to buy a beer.
Oh my God, that is ruthless. That is awesome. That is a great and terrible story at the same time. All right, well, guys, thank you so much. One thing we didn't cover the giveaways. So people that ask questions, if you're the winner, we'll reach out via direct message and get you the gear that you want. I appreciate people joining in and asking questions. Alistair and Jonny, I really can't thank you guys enough. We went like 10 minutes over. You guys are really wonderful. I appreciate the tips, the strategies, and everything that you shared, the stories. And I wish you guys the best of luck. And Alistair, I hope that ankle gets recovered and you can crush the Ironman. So thank you so much. And to everybody, next time, remember, first Friday of the month, we are actually going to be doing a live in, not really on studio, but out at the Denver Broncos facility. So we're going to be getting there. We're getting an inside tour of the Denver Broncos facility. We're going to be talking with their registered dietitian, who's the head of nutrition there. It's going to be an incredible show. And it's going to be, as always, first Friday in December. So tune in, same time, right here on the American Pistachio Growers Facebook page. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time.